righty. So, hi everybody, Chip Paul, and I'm here with Mattie Bagwell. Very lucky to have Mattie Bagwell here. Badgewell. Golly.
It's okay. It's either mispronounced or misspelled. So
okay. Is it GDE?
It's DGW.
DGW.
Actually,
okay.
I think somewhere down the line it was Bagwell, and they wanted to separate, so it's Badgewell.
Okay. sorry to all you Badgewells out there. I'll get it right for now and forever in the future.
That's funny.
But anyway, we're here on the GnuPharma channel to really talk about some GnuPharma technology that we think is really exciting. And we have taken this GnuPharma technology, and again, we're working with several moms and situations, which we're going to talk with Mattie a little bit more about. Oh, that's nice. I got a phone call. So let's decline. So anyway, we'll talk to Mattie a little bit more about that. But I really want to talk about what we've been able to do with the GnuPharma science and kind of how we've been able to back engineer this, if you will, with our model. And then, and again, that's all theoretical, right? And generally, out in the drug discovery land, to do something like this takes years and years. But just real quick, what we were able to do was, because of the GnuPharma model of human function under the endocannabinoid system, we kind of think here, or believe here, that we all operate under this endocannabinoid system as our master regulatory system. And if you understand that and kind of understand how we work under this system, and you look at something like autism, which is just, such a severe thing. And again, it's something that modern science isn't fixing, right? It's getting worse. It's not getting better.
Well, if you look at the statistics, when my son was born in 2007, it was 1 in 112.
Yeah.
Today, it's like 1 in 54.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a major prevalence.
And I think when I was born, it was like it was 1 in 100,000, 1 in millions. So
and you can debate the cause all day long, but when you're living with autism, the cause isn't as important as treating it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we run into so many issues with pharmaceuticals. It's because we're not treating the autism, we're treating the symptoms of autism.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, and let's talk about this, because we've talked about this before. Yeah. But what happens is, again, if you're an autistic mom or dad out there and you've got a kid, you'll take your child to a specialist, and if that specialist knows about autism, perhaps they're going to prescribe the right thing. They'll prescribe and try to treat the autism, not the behavior.
Yes.
But treating the behavior, as we know, almost causes the exact opposite effect.
Well, and that's the other thing with kids with autism is I don't think we, even doctors now, even fully understand how these medications are going to affect them, because everything affects a person with autism differently than it affects the normal status quo. Their brain patterns are different. That everything with autism is neurological, where it's coming from. So we are treating them with this information from these case studies that are normal, typical individuals who are taking these medications.
Right.
So when my son took something like clonopine, clonopine is prescribed a lot for sleeping and calming them down. It's a blood pressure medicine.
Yeah.
Kaden went psycho on that medicine. Yeah. I mean, and everything that he went through as a side effect from being on it for 2 days was not listed in the side effects at all.
Oh, wow.
So that is where it gets so hard. And then you get stuck in this cycle where you don't know if what you're dealing with is from your child's autism or if it's a side effect of this medication you just started giving them.
Yeah.
So it becomes a very hard battle. I think at our highest point, we were on probably 5 or 6 different pharmaceutical medications that he was taking throughout the day. So, I mean, he was taking more medicine than I ever would have imagined I would be giving my child,
And just real quick, the science explanation here, because I think this helps. And again, I think that we can talk about, like, when you treat the behavior, that sort of slows the idle. So if you think about, and again, we use the car analogy around GnuPharma a lot because that fits, but we work kind of like our car. Again, we have this regulatory system called our master regulatory system, the endocannabinoid system. We have a computer in our vehicle called our hypothalamus hippocampus. But we have to have resources to be able to control our body. And your whole body works on this anandamide and CB1 neuroreceptor interaction where you do work. So if you look at autistic people, you know, what's anomalous, what's different about them? Are they different in the endocannabinoid system? And it turns out they are. And this is fascinating. And again, we're just going to kind of talk about the science that will support everything that Mattie just said. But really interesting things happen to autistic people. So they don't have enough anandamide, which is your main kind of control ligand. So it's the thing that really works every control surface in your body through your CB1 neuroreceptor. They don't have enough of this. And then this reaction is controlled by something called FAW, and they have too much FAW. So again, if you think about this situation where you have an idol, your body's sitting here at idle, so whatever their idol currently is, and you have a situation where they can't really make this control bond because they don't have enough of this and they have too much of this. So the way that pharma treats this situation is speed up the idle. And when you speed up the idle, that effectively slows down this clock, okay? So now you can, even though you don't have enough of this, you can begin to make some control and have some mechanism of control, okay? But that doesn't last and you kind of go back to the same situation. When you treat the behavior, if the behavior is aggressive, which it generally is, right?
Yep.
You slow down the idle, and that just makes everything worse. That exacerbates the problem, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of what goes on, and that's why it's so important to kind of, you know, as we begin to understand more, do we understand the science here? No.
Yeah.
We're beginning to kind of understand, you know, smoke in the endocannabinoid system to be able
Well,
to
and
do.
it took us, what, 3 different trials
Yeah.
and errors with Caden to
Yeah.
get him on what he's on now. That's been working really well for him.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's kind of what it is. And that's what medication is too. You know, we're so used to, and that's why I think a lot of parents are so scared to switch from pharmaceuticals to a natural plant-based medication, is because we are so used to going in and telling a doctor, this is what I've dealt with for the last month.
Yep.
And they look in their little book and they tell us, okay, this is what we're going to try.
Yeah.
Everything is guess and check. Everything is experimental. And the side effects from that guess and check compared to the side effects that we have right now from our guess and check is like night and day.
Yeah.
There are no side effects right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Is it, and did it shock you that, I mean, did it take you a little bit to kind of get over the hump of, you know, if this isn't pharma, it's a natural product. How can this work like pharma? They have all this power or whatever. Yeah.
It did. And it's really hard to, autism is so up and down anyways. And it's so easy to second guess yourself no matter what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there were times when we were on the pharmaceutical medicine and I'm just like, I'm just gonna stop. I can't do this anymore. But you can't do that with pharmaceuticals. There are so many side effects and from stopping, and you can't just do that. And with this other, you know, when we were doing, before we were just doing the THC before we reached out to you.
Yeah.
We did CBD before, but we did it as a solo on its own.
And let me stop you there real quick because I want to talk just real quick about why THC works. Because THC will work, but again, you've got a lot of factors going on here, okay? So THC does increase your idle a little bit, and it gives you more of this, okay? So again, now you've got more control surface and you've got a little bit of slowdown of this. If THC and CBDs together, again, the CBDs help with this thing going on, okay? So THC and CBDs will work and are effective, but you have to be careful of the modifications like with the terpenes that do that, right? Because now you've blown the whole, your kind of therapeutic equation. So there's a lot of variability with cannabis.
Yes.
I would guess that if you found kind of a distillate that's a THC CBD ratio, that's probably worked the best. But.
Yeah, you know, we did RSO. So when we started THC, he was on Risperdal.
Oh, okay.
And that's a heavy antipsychotic.
Yeah.
And so we did use RSO, and that's what we used to get him off of the Risperdal.
Okay.
And then we slowly got him off of all of the other medicines. So he's actually been completely pharmaceutical free since I would say like October of last year is when we
that's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And it was from July to that point, it was like seeing everything that you wanted to see. And we were so excited and he was doing so good. And then we hit our first kind of big bump.
So let's talk about
Yes.
that. And let's talk about what happened, and then let's talk about kind of what's happened since with Kate. And
Yes.
you might go into a little bit about Caden's behavior. And it, to me, Caden is kind of on the, and he's not on the extreme end, but he's certainly on
He's
the
extreme, yes.
extreme
Yeah.
end of things.
Yeah.
And so let's kind of.
I mean, he's definitely on the severity side because he's 12 years old.
Yeah.
He still needs me. He's still on pull-ups. He still needs my help with everything daily. He can't. He's not aware of danger and things like that, and not being able to express himself, he gets easily agitated. He's had a lot of regression, so he stopped talking at like 20 months old.
Okay.
And that's when kind of our autism journey started.
Okay.
So since then, he's always had where he would do really, really good for months, and then we would kind of plateau out, and we either wouldn't see any new progress or we would see some regression.
Okay.
And so what I noticed, the big thing is when we started with the THC, the regression seemed to be less, I don't want to say less impactful, but it was less extreme.
Okay.
So the regression would be like, instead of, he used to count and he would say the numbers as he counted.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then he stopped doing that altogether. So then he started counting again, but he's not saying it again.
Okay.
So for me, it's like there's different levels of regression.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we started CBD in December, we were actually using a CBD from Lazarus Naturals, which I know is one that a lot of people use. And so we started using that, and he actually did really good. He was doing about 300 to 350 milligrams of CBD a day.
Okay.
And then he was doing about 25 to 50 milligrams of THC. And at this point, he's off of the RSO.
Okay.
Because RSO is very tricky. I feel like the RSO helps because of how potent it is. It
Mm-hmm.
helps so much with the aggression.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is a high dose,
Mm-hmm.
and it is very easy to give them too much.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give them too much, it can cause an adverse effect. So
Mm-hmm.
I was seeing that even with the tiny little rice grain, he was kind of stimming a lot and seemed to get a little bit more emotionally upset.
Okay.
So at this point in December, I'm making all of his oils for him, all of his tinctures. And that seemed to do really, really good. And then January, we had to go into inpatient, and we had to get some stuff taken out of his ears.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him a shot of ketamine.
Mm-hmm.
Did not tell me until afterwards that they gave him a shot of ketamine, and it's just been downhill ever since then. And so the CBD stopped working, the THC stopped working. And then on top of that, not long after January, Corona happens. And then we had to stop therapy. We had all sorts of different therapy schedule changes. And then on top of that, hormones, because I really feel like kids with autism go through hormone changes and puberty way sooner than typical kids.
And let me stop you there real quick, because another thing that happens, every kid
Mm-hmm.
that goes through puberty, you spike anandamide. So
Mm-hmm.
again, in autistic, I don't think there's ever been a study, but I would assume that you can't spike as much anandamide because you don't have as
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
so that's going to cause a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
dysregulation. So,
Yeah,
so-
absolutely. So we went, after January, we went into a period of just turmoil, and his episodes became manic, where he was literally running through the house, and anything not attached was going flying. He not only was harming himself, which was typical. He's always been a headbanger. He's always kind of bit himself sometimes.
Yep.
But now he started hitting us and pulling my hair and biting me.
And he's big.
Oh, he's big. Yeah, he's a big boy. And there's a disconnect when they're in that mode, and they are stronger than you,
Mm-hmm.
no matter the size.
Mm-hmm.
He's stronger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And also too, I'm a mom and I'm human, and it's hard when your kid starts behaving that way towards you.
Yeah.
It's so hard. And I know,
yes. I know all you want is for your kid to look you in the eye and make that connection, right?
Yes.
And when they're mad, and so it's got to be so hard.
It's very hard. And so before, and I know a lot of autism parents do this, is we internalize. And so when something's going on like that, we just kind of shut down. And so for me, with starting the Ocamon's page and stuff like that, I started to retrain myself to externalize. So I just started jumping on all the videos and was just asking tons of questions. What do you use with kids with autism? And and that's how we ended up linking up within like the comment section of one of these videos. And you were like, "Hey, message me. I think we can help you." And so that's where it kind of started. And so we did start on the syrup, and Kane wouldn't do the syrup. And then we switched, and you made the Focus Plus. And he had a reaction to the sunflower lecithin because he's extra sensitive. And then he's on this third one, which is just the Focus, and he's been doing so good on this. I can't tell you how many times I've tried a product, even THC, and it only works for maybe a couple of weeks, and then it seems like we're having to restart or start over. And this is the first time where I've had him on a product where he consistently takes it every day, and he's not regressing. He's getting better. I mean, I can't tell you how good he's doing. We went 2.5 weeks before a meltdown.
Oh, wow.
And like, I can't tell you the last time we've gone that long without a meltdown like that. And we had a meltdown on Sunday. And we had a meltdown, I want to say Monday or Tuesday, because today's Wednesday. But they're even different. Even the meltdowns now are different because they are not lasting as long. They are not as manic. He is still having some property destruction, but not one time during that meltdown Sunday did he hurt himself. Did he hurt me? Nothing like that. So it is kind of limited to that property destruction still, but it was way different than the meltdowns he's had prior.
That's amazing.
That's a big deal.
That's amazing, and that's nothing like that's ever happened.
No, and it shows that he's self-regulating a little bit better. And I have noticed too that he is getting a more like emotional. So like if he does hit me with something that he throws, he kind of stops and he comes over and he like touches me where it hit me. And to me, that is amazing. That is showing that he's recognizing.
Oh, wow.
And he's kind of got some babbling going on. I've caught a few words where like, I know he just said that, and so right now.
Accounting? Is he doing accounting?
Yeah. He's it's sometimes he's hit or miss still with 1, 2, but he's doing really good. And like I said, we haven't had any major regression. Like we haven't had any regression at all. Like everything new that he's been doing better is still consistently getting better. Now I will say that I give it to him in the morning because it does seem to give him a lot of energy. And so if I give it to him too late in the afternoon, we have some sleep issues, and we do have some sleep issues right now. And I don't know if that is from the oils kind of waking him up, and his brain is more active, and so he's having trouble falling asleep. But I will say that we've been able to get him on a program where he's not taking any THC during the day.
And and again, a lot of you guys out there, are not in Oklahoma or in a regulated state. You don't have access to THC. So again, what I think I'm hearing is that this is working as well, if not better, than THC.
And right now we're mainly using THC at night to sleep. I'm trying not to use RSO every night because it does, when we use the RSO, it does seem to help him go to sleep. But not if we're using it 2 or 3 days in a row. Like if I use RSO one night and then I wait a couple nights, and when I use it again, it will work again to put him to sleep.
That's interesting. That's got to be a tolerance. That's
what I'm wondering. So
it will kind of get the body. But so talk about a little bit about. So he goes to therapy every day.
He does. He goes to ABA therapy.
And so has the therapist noticed any difference?
Yeah, they've noticed. I haven't gotten his graphing yet, which I was going to share with you. But they've noticed that his focus has been a lot better. He has actually like picked up new toys that have been in that room that he's never paid attention to, and he went over and picked them up and started playing with them. His focus is getting better. I think it was the other day they've been working really hard. He has different Kool-Aid packs, and so we're getting him to try to make choices. And so instead of just saying he wants juice, we want him to say he wants the blue juice or the purple juice. And so he's just now starting to say, I want the blue juice or the red juice.
Nice.
And that just started this week. So that was really awesome. I think it was Monday or Tuesday they were telling me about that.
Very
So,
cool.
yeah.
Very cool. And so they'll kind of, are they recognizing an ability in him to, are they kind of pushing him now? Maybe
Oh yeah, yeah, and ABA has always been there to push them a little bit outside of their comfort zone to get them to develop new patterns and behaviors and things. And so they have definitely noticed a lot less agitation, a lot more compliance. Whereas before, if King didn't want to do something, he just kind of like shoved himself underneath the beanbag and like avoidance. A little bit is what they call it.
Okay.
So when he didn't want to do anything, it was immediately like eloping to get away from the situation.
Okay.
And he's doing less of that, and he's doing a lot more engaging. And so we're going to actually try and get him back on a communication app.
Okay.
So he used to have an electronic communication one, but he was so frustrated and aggressive that he would just throw it. And break it. And so we've been working with a pet sport with the Velcro.
Awesome. Okay.
And he's done really good with that. So now I think we're going to get ready to introduce back that electronic board and see if we can get him to start making sentences. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So neat. Yeah.
We're super excited. And then what I didn't expect is I have 2 kids with autism.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
So before we start with that, so one of the things, again, with science, in this realm and how the ability that I guess within this company to do things that we're limited, with our resources. So we can't, do controlled experiments and things like that. And again, we would need to do that in a completely different circumstance. So we can, provide product and get feedback, and hopefully we're validating our science. But one of the things that we can't really control, and again, you got to do what you got to do if you're an autistic mom. But Caden, kind of had this situation where it was what we were giving him, and it's always been the same basic medicine. So it's a combination of CBD, CBG that's showing this really good result. But whether it was in a syrup, sunflower thing, and all that, and the sunflower thing is mixed with herbs. But anyway, it is also taking RSO, which again, that's provided for this. So again, we can see a difference when he takes this stuff, and we know that this stuff is having an impact on him. But in a perfect world, we'd have an isolated situation. So interestingly, we have an isolated situation.
Yeah. From the same
family. So talk about Mackenzie.
So I have a daughter with autism, and they are 13 months apart, but they are on different levels of the spectrum. So Mackenzie has never had regression. She's been slow to develop. And so she was diagnosed with progressive developmental delay. She didn't actually get an autism diagnosis until she was about 4. She didn't start talking until she was about 6.5. She was fully potty trained until she was about 7. So right now, the last eval we had not this last eval, but the one before that. When she got evaluated, she was about 3 years behind her age level, and she's 11. So she can talk. She's verbal, but she has a lot of repetitive. I think they call it echolia, which is where they will repeat phrases from movies and different conversations and things like that, and it's just kind of like on a loop.
So that's kind of Alzheimer's.
Yes, and it's really hard. Like, it was really hard before to pull of it. And she's always done speech and occupational therapy. My kids have been in therapy since they were 3. And so with that, we were working on a phrase, and we call it video talk, because she watches a lot of videos and things. And so the video talk can work and kind of pull her back in. Well, I decided she was on medication. She only did medicine for about a year.
And no THC.
Had THC. No, I've been considering getting her card. But she just didn't need it on a daily basis like Caden. And so with her, after Caden, I saw him doing so well. I thought, why am I not using this on Mackenzie? Let's just So I tried the Focus Plus with her, which was the one with the sunflower like this one that Caden could use. And it was like literally like later that day. I did the morning, and it was like later that afternoon. Her sentence structure was just so much better. It went from, Mom, come play with Mackenzie, to, hey, come play with me. Like, that difference is amazing in the way that they're cognitively understanding system structure to be able to make it themselves.
Viewing themselves and their sense of self.
So after about a week of taking, she only takes 1 meal in the morning. That's it. And so after about a week, we went back into therapy and we did her re-eval. And she literally improved so much. I'm waiting for her eval, but her therapist was so excited. She said we didn't have one single episode of video talk in an hour and 45-minute session.
Oh, wow.
She said that she's pretty sure she's gone up probably a whole age level in a lot of her categories.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so, now that she's been on it for about 2 weeks now, a little over 2 weeks now, it's just amazing to see the change in her. It's slow, but it's gradual.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing because I've always had mom guilt about her because Kaden needs so much from me that I feel like I've left her behind a little bit. But to see her just kind of making these leaps and bounds every day, and just, I can't even tell you like one example. Like that's how exciting it is because there's something every day.
That's so cool. Yes. That is so cool.
And she just the way like she's talking and responding and then like the other day her dad had asked her to grab her something,
mm-hmm.
and she literally like a normal kid was like, oh, fine, I'll go get it for you. But to us that's huge.
Yeah.
That's like, oh my gosh.
Would she have normally said Mackenzie doesn't want to?
No, she wouldn't have said anything. She would have sat down and kind of chuckled, or she would have maybe said, okay, and went back and got it, but to get like that whole, to get like personality and a good response is just so exciting.
Yeah. So cool.
I know, she's doing so good. I'm like that. I'm so excited. Like I'm excited for Kaden, but for that one was just like, I'm so excited on her.
So at GnuPharma, what we do, and this is such good news, and I'm mm-hmm. so excited about this because this is taking like theory and actually putting it into practice, and it's working, and it's working exactly the way that we kind of expected it to, and it's amazing, which is really cool. And again, we can't make claims about our stuff yet. We will when we walk this up as medicines, but we can't say we can, fix autism.
Well, and that's why I waited too. Yeah. We used it on Kaden for a good month or a little bit over a month before I made any posts about it or started telling people about it because I wanted to make sure it was going to work for him. And so far, like, it's just really exceeded what I thought we would get from it.
That's awesome. Yes. That's really good news. And again, in the GnuPharma world, we all are kind of this perfect machine, and it doesn't really matter what we look like right now. Mm-hmm. And autism looks pretty bad. Yeah. But we really are this perfect machine once we kind of figure out what's missing and how to re-regulate where we're broken. Yeah. And that applies to IBS and Crohn's and inflammation and 100 other disease states in addition to autism. Yep. So are you guys, and again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but one of the things that we do at GnuPharma is, again, if we built a medicine, that we would call medicine, again, it's an herbal supplement with compounded herbs together, but, we would, in a perfect world, you or OK Canamoms, kind of have that as a product, right? Mm-hmm. So do you think that's something that you guys are going to do?
I mean, I think it's definitely something that we've been interested in and we would like to do. But Canamoms is a duo. Yeah. And so I've been using it a lot longer than Krista has. Yes.
Yeah. And she so is she getting results? Or?
She has been. She's been working with it with a little bit with Bubba. And then I know her daughter has done really good with those relaxed herbal supplements that she gave her. And so I think honestly it's just kind of waiting to see how well they do and for how long
and I really love it so isn't this cool? So you've got two moms that want to know that something works before they go try to help people with it or make money on it, however you want to look at it. But good for you guys, it's not all about
and that's why we started Okana Moms is because autism is really hard, and a lot of times, a lot of people don't want to talk about the bad side of it because that maybe makes you look weak or like a bad mom. But it's okay to say some days suck worse than others, especially with autism. We are dealing with so much outside of the normal that other people are dealing with, that the more you internalize, the more you stress, the worse your home environment is going to be.
And it's almost like, my wife and I used to have a senior care company, and I dealt with so many Alzheimer's patients, but it's almost like Alzheimer's, but Alzheimer's is more open. Like people talk more about, gosh, I get so frustrated with dad because he's got Alzheimer's,
Well, but if you think about it, a child like mine, had I had him back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, they would have institutionalized him immediately. They would have put him in the attic. Nobody would have talked about
the
him.
Kennedys.
Yes, exactly. They did a lobotomy on her, And that's the thing. I'm not trying to cure my child's autism. I'm not. I'm trying to make him a better version of himself with his autism so that he can function. Because no matter what I do in this life, at some point in time, my son's going to become a part of the system. He is. And my goal is to make the system better, to make him better.
But maybe not. Again, so this is the thing. In my world, what's broken? I mean, no one's really broken.
Oh no, exactly.
And we don't. We don't know. He literally, again,
he might blow me out of the water and start talking one day.
He's been through a whole lot of, medication trauma and stuff like that. So he's been through a whole lot of trauma. That I don't, there probably will be a limit, to where we can kind of get everything. But I think that limit is
it's probably beyond my expectations. Because it's not that you lose hope. I always have hope that my children will do better, but you can hope and still live in reality, and that's how I go about it. I live in reality and I laugh about it, but I always hope that it will get better. But you go through so much that you just kind of ride the waves, and you kind of question if this really is getting better. Is this really what it is? And so far it has been. I mean, so far it's been beyond my expectations on how well he's done with it.
That's awesome. I mean, and I can't tell, that people are motivated by different things, but that is
isn't it? I know.
And I'm so, and you can.
I know. That's why, I send you notes all the time. And it's just like that one day, it was what was it? The day or two after, I know, but it was like the day after we first gave it to him, and I sent you that video, and he was humming along with the radio song. He's never done that before.
I know, and it quietly have showed that video to a lot of people, because that meant a lot to me. Just to thank you for sending that to me. So.
It is, and honestly, it's one of those things where I feel like I wouldn't be helping the community that we're a part of if I didn't talk about how well he's been doing from it, and that there is another option. And a lot of parents are scared to do THC. They're scared to do cannabis.
And what this is, and real quick, just what these products are. So Focus it is hemp oil, and it has CBD and CBG only in it. Again, that's patented, so don't rip us off. I'll come get you. But we have that formulation patented for this particular silo, and then the Focus Plus has herbs that also so it has those same things, but then it also has sage, and it has Melissa officinalis, which is called lemon balm, and then it has red clover, which helps with this situation. So,
and I think eventually we'll get Caden to a point where he can have those herbal. I think with him being so sensitive, it's one step at a time introduction for him versus Mackenzie.
And it's set, if you think about it, the situation with autism, if it's severe, is you can't make a control surface to control your body. So that might manifest in the way that it appears to, kind of mental, but it's also emotional. It's also everything, right? So when you go to try to make a change in that situation, it's like the finest of fine watches. And so we just introduced he had taken all these herbs before everything that we given him, and we just introduced the sunflower lecithin at 1%. But that is something, and I know that's got to be frustrating to physicians and to people who are really trying to help here too, because it's just so sensitive.
It is,
But it's sensitive because of what it is.
But I think that's the one good thing about autism too, though, being neurological, is it can heal. Your brain can heal itself. You can make some new connections. You can build upon it and do better.
This blew me. If you're my age, you're a boomer, right? So you got all this stuff that your brain on drugs, you can't regenerate brain cells. Well, that's not true.
Yeah, no, you can.
Every cell in your body will regenerate. So technically, you can remake yourself literally over the course of 7 years. And nerves take a long time to redo, and bones do, but everything in you will regenerate. And so, what is the age limiting factor on us? It's really malnourishment right now, frankly.
Well, and all the synthetic things and stuff like that. I mean, if I knew half of what I knew now when they were growing up, they wouldn't need a McDonald's trip. They wouldn't need these things because I made these behavioral pattern changes, to suffice and get along because I didn't know. And now that I know, I was trying to break the habit that I created. So that's the hardest thing.
one thing too, because you mentioned diet, and again, this all of this again is autism, nature, nurture. I mean, the argument's still out on that, but certainly how you run your body is determined on your diet.
Yes.
Okay? And so if you have this situation or any situation, try to up your omega-3 intake. That helps. And so that's why we put these products in like hemp oil. It's a really good source of omega-3s. And
I will say, switching from the MCT oil to the hemp oil made a major change in his bowels. He has been so regular, and that constipation has been a big issue with autism, especially with Caden. And and so I will say that once we switched from all of his tints I used to make with MCT oil, once I switched to the hemp oil base, it was like so much better. It's night and day difference.
And that's omega-3s. And again, if you look at really what's really wrong with all of us, it's a lack of omega-3s and an overabundance of omega-6s. So the more we can kind of right that situation, the better. And again, I'm just kind of saying this for if you're out there, omega-3s is a really good supplement to help. Obviously, this stuff that we're talking about. And again, you can get that through TrueMedX, which is you can find TrueMedX on the GnuPharma website. That in a perfect world, we have somebody like Mattie actually, with a white label product, and talking about it.
And he also uses your rest and relax CBD
tincture.
Yes, tincture. As like a little CBD booster. Because he definitely needs more CBD. But the combo that you have there has just been, I've been happy with it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So did we miss anything you feel like?
I don't think so, unless I don't know if you can view what people say.
We can, and this is the bad thing about the Zoom setup is we can't really view questions, but
I'll go back through.
And I will too. So we'll both go back through and answer any questions that are on there. But thank you so much for doing this. And it just
I'll keep we'll keep everybody updated and do these periodically too, because like I said, it's a period and it's a process, and they keep changing. And that's what I liked about you guys is when we hit a roadblock with one, I just send you a message and you say, okay, let me look at the formula and we'll do something new. And that to me was the most beneficial thing. There's nobody that I've been able to say, hey, I got your product and it worked this way, but it didn't work completely. And then you actually tweak the product for him. That to me was just.
And I'm trying to dial it in too. Again, because of where he is on the spectrum, I know if I can get him, I can get.
A lot of it, I know.
And so it is,
my kid's is special.
But I appreciate the situation having a mom that works with me.
Yes,
too.
Well, and
the Caden benefits. So
that's what we want. Is just we just want our kids to do better. We want to help them, and not just my child. I want everybody's kids to do better. I know how hard it is. I know how isolating it is. I know what it's like to sit in your bathroom by yourself and cry because your kid just had a meltdown and now they're okay. It's hard. And so I just feel like the more we can get out there, the better.
And I really like it that you guys are talking about kind of this emotional side of it too, because that is so, if you're a mom and you have to love your kid, but gosh, if he's acting out, you probably want to, just don't like him, right? You love him always, but you certainly don't like him. But then there's guilt and all that associated with that,
and that's what the Okana Moms was for. So if anybody wants to follow us, you guys can find Okana Moms, and that's mainly what we do. We talk about the good and the bad, and
it's OK.
capital OK Anna moms.
Moms.
Okay,
And it's in the, I think it's in the title.
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll tag it. I'll plug myself.
Perfect. Maddie, thank you so much for coming
Thank you
on.
for
And
having me,
this is,
Jeff.
I think, one of the best ones that we've ever done. So we'll continue to do stuff like this with GnuPharma, and it will try to find situations where we're helping people with our technology and kind of what we're doing. So,
Yeah, awesome.
all right.
Have a
See
good
you
day.
guys. Have a good day. This was fun.